3 counties, 24 cities, working together, accomplishing more than any of us could alone. Whether your roots run generations deep, or you recently moved to Greater Portland, you are a part of Metro, the nation's only regional government elected by the people. Planning for the future, preserving what we love. Let's keep our region thriving for decades to come.
I'm Laura Lepley, a Metro Park Ranger. Here at Oxbow Park, safety is our #1 priority, not only for our guests, but for our staff members. I'm at the Welcome Center and you're at the Regional Center. The council chambers are located on the 3rd floor. In the event of a fire or fire alarm, please exit through the door in the northeast corner of the room. Go down the stairway to the 2nd floor, exit through the main entrance by the reception desk, and gather in the courtyard outside that entrance. In the event of a medical or fire emergency, please call 911 and notify the security agent at the reception desk. The nearest defibrillator is mounted on the steps leading from the reception desk down to Grand Avenue. Thank you, and come visit us at Oxbow Park.
All right, we'll declare a quorum and call the Metro Council business meeting to order. And we'll ask our clerk, Georgia Langer, to call the roll for attendance.
Yes. Councilor Nolan?
Present. Good morning.
Councilor Gonzalez?
Present. Good morning.
Councilor Simpson?
Present. Good morning.
Councilor Rosenthal?
Present.
Councilor Lewis will be here shortly, and Acting Council President Wong.
Present. Thank you. Okay, let's start with public communications on non-agenda items. Georgia, will you please describe to our audience our procedures that we use for public communications?
Yes. If you are testifying on non-agenda items, now is the time to do so. If you're testifying in person, please sign up by filling out a blue card in the back of the room and bringing it up to me. If you're testifying on Zoom or by phone, please sign up by using the raise hand function in the reactions or more menus, or by dialing *9. When it is your turn to testify, I'll call in your name or phone number. For those on Zoom, click accept to be promoted to a panelist. You can turn on your camera if you'd like. Testimony is limited to 3 minutes and the timer begins when you begin speaking. If you are testifying in person, their timer is located on the testimony table, on the wall, and on the digital screen. Please state your name for the record before testifying. You do not need to give your physical address. And Acting Council President Wong, I have not received any signups in advance. There are no blue cards in the room, and there are no hands raised in the virtual audience.
Okay, thank you. We'll close public testimony and move on to our consent agenda. We have 2 items today on the consent agenda. We have resolution number 26-5601 for the purpose of adopting the Supportive Housing Services Regional Policy and Oversight Committee bylaws, as well as consideration of the April 23rd, 2026 council meeting minutes. Is there a motion on consent agenda?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda. Second.
Okay, it's moved by Councilor Gonzalez, seconded by Councilor Rosenthal. All in favor say aye.
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 Hi.
All opposed say nay. Okay, the consent agenda passes unanimously. We'll move on to our presentations. We'll start with item 4.1, Oregon Zoo Bond Implementation Audit, We'll begin this morning for presentation by Metro Auditor Brian Evans on the recent Oregon Zoo Bond Implementation Audit. Welcome, Auditor Evans and team.
Thank you.
Sorry.
President Wong, Metro Councilors, thanks for the opportunity today to present the results of our audit. I'm joined by Maggie Muldrew and Kendra Wendell, who are 2 senior management auditors in my office who worked on this audit. And as you said, we're here to present the results of the Zoo Implementation Bond Audit that was published earlier this month. The purpose of the audit was to evaluate the zoo's preparedness to carry out the bond and deliver on bond and agency-wide commitments. We had 4 objectives. The first was to identify opportunities to measure bond commitments, so performance measures. The second was to determine how agency-wide commitments had been integrated into bond projects. The third was to determine whether project management practices were in place to plan and execute on the bond. And the fourth was to determine if best practices were in place to manage financial contingencies. As a reminder, voters approved $380 million for capital improvements at the Oregon Zoo in May 2024, so about 2 years ago. The funds were intended to replace outdated animal habitats, improve educational exhibits, conserve water and energy, and increase accessibility. The ballot measure promised that an oversight committee would be created and that an implementation plan would be approved by Metro Council. The implementation plan, later known as the campus plan, was approved in September 2024. It contained 11 projects, 5 of which were expected to be completed using bond funds. The audit found that the zoo was not prepared to implement the 2024 bond measure. Ineffective oversight led to significant changes to the first project scope of work, and as a result, the first project will improve some areas that were built with the previous bond, while the zoo's entry plaza that was prioritized in the campus plan has no budget or timeline for completion. The audit includes a detailed appendix with control weaknesses that led to the first project being misaligned with the campus plan. We also found that project management tools and performance measures were not finalized before construction began. The ballot measure made 7 commitments to the voters, and Metro also has 6 public benefit programs that apply to bond projects. Delivering on those promises while staying on budget and scope could be a challenge. The weaknesses we found during the audit had 3 root causes. The first was the absence of effective controls to manage project scopes, budgets, schedules, and contingencies. The second root cause was the scale of what the bond set out to accomplish. The 11 projects in the campus plan were the only public document that identified what would be completed with the money, and bond funds were only expected to complete 5 of them. The remaining projects had an estimated cost of $185 million that will have to be paid from another source, even if all of the projects that were associated with the bond are delivered on scope and on budget. The third root cause was an incomplete bond team. As of January of this year, 4 of the 9 positions on the team had not been filled. That meant that some employees were carrying out multiple responsibilities. The Oversight Committee had its first meeting in February of this year. The committee will play an important role in ensuring that the bond meets its commitments. So to set them up for success, we have recommendations to ensure transparency to the public, and we made recommendations for the zoo to get approval from this council on who has the authority to make changes to the project scopes, schedules, and budgets in the campus plan, to finalize and strengthen project management practices, to establish performance measures, to clarify roles and responsibilities for complying with public benefit programs, and to provide financial oversight. I'm going to turn it over to Maggie and Kendra now to provide more details about each of the report's findings.
The zoo made 7 commitments on the bond ballot measure related to animal well-being, weather protection, sustainability, accessibility, education, conservation, and animal care in an emergency. Performance measures were not in place for the bond to show progress on these commitments made to voters. We found that the zoo tracked information that could be used to measure bond commitments. We used guidance from the Government Finance Officers Association to evaluate potential performance measures that were being tracked by the zoo. We found that the zoo had information available to measure progress for the 3 commitments that addressed animal well-being, sustainability, and conservation. For example, the Guest Association of the Zoo with Conservation, as measured by the Guest Experience Survey, and the number of species recovery programs at the zoo could both be used to measure the conservation commitment. Due to the technical nature of the zoo's work, communicating some measures could be challenging. We found that adequate performance measures were not available for 4 bond measure commitments that addressed education, accessibility, weather protection, and animal care in an emergency. More work was needed to develop performance measures for these commitments. For instance, the number of ADA-related barriers removed as part of the bond work could be used to measure the accessibility commitment, but the spreadsheet used to track ADA-related barriers at the zoo would need to be updated first to establish a baseline by which to measure future progress. In addition to the commitments made to voters on the ballot, the zoo is also responsible for integrating several of Metro's public benefit programs. These programs aim to improve access to careers in the construction field, promote art and economic growth, reduce diesel emissions, and implement sustainable practices. To determine how agency-wide commitments had been integrated into bond projects, we evaluated staff responsibilities and program requirements. Although processes to integrate Metro's public benefit programs into bond projects were established, those needed to monitor compliance were not fully developed. We found that tools and processes to ensure compliance with Metro's public benefit programs needed refinement. Specifically, some roles and responsibilities were either not assigned or did not appear to be followed. This made it unclear who would be responsible for monitoring compliance with reporting requirements. It also reduced clarity around whether program guidance was followed. More oversight was also needed to manage program requirements. Some tools, such as a checklist, were used, but improvements were needed.
Thank you. For our third objective, project management, we found some processes were in place to manage areas of project management we reviewed. However, most tools were still being developed and some needed refinement. Aligning tools with project management best practices can increase efficiency and improve outcomes. To evaluate the bond's project management tools, we considered 7 categories of project and program management based on guidance from the Project Management Institute. Lack of process documentation was a key weakness and could prevent the zoo from ensuring projects would be managed consistently. For example, the project brief did not include scope, schedule change, or cost management plans. Project management plans typically outline the processes that project managers should follow when addressing risk in each category. Additionally, some budgeting and cost tracking processes were not finalized. These limitations created an increased risk for budget planning. We also found that risk management tools were available for projects but appeared to be limited for the bond as a whole. This mattered because there could be bond risks that would not be accounted for in project-level risk assessments. Overlooking complex risks that are beyond the scope of the project-level assessment could result in cost overruns or schedule delays. This leads to our fourth and final objective, which was related to contingencies. The zoo may not be setting enough in contingencies aside based on their own guidance and lessons learned from the previous bond. This increased the risk that the zoo may not be able to complete the bond's planned projects or may deliver smaller projects than what was envisioned in the campus plan. The amount of funding set aside was less than we expected based on the zoo's contingency guidance. We applied the guidance to existing budgets to determine whether current contingencies were aligned. The audit found that improved processes were needed to manage financial contingencies in the following areas. Contingencies did not align with their guidance. The guidance set contingency rates for program and project budgets. Program contingency was set at 10% of the bond, but the actual was only 8%. Project contingency was set at 18% of the project budget, but was only 9%. Analyzing risk early could help management and the oversight committee understand trade-offs. The first project, Plaza Enhancements, was slated to include a 29,500 square foot area of open and covered space at the zoo entry. We were told the initial design for the entry plaza would cost more than the entire project budget. Rather than try to revise the design for the entry plaza, zoo management decided not to improve the entry plaza. As a result, the project area shrank by 86%. This was a different approach than was used in the previous bond when management adjusted scopes and budgets to maintain the integrity of the project. Aligning the contingency guidance with best practices could help to deliver projects as promised. The guidance did not indicate how the 18% baseline was determined. The guidance also included 4 risk factors that could impact the 18%, but did not indicate how. This could impair decision-making when evaluating new risks or duplicate funding for risks that were already considered. Thank you, and I will pass it back to Auditor Evans.
Thanks, Maggie and Kendra. That concludes our presentation. I want to thank all the employees who participated in this audit, and I'd also like to thank Maggie, Kendra, and Angela Owens in my office for their work. We'd be happy to answer any questions you have now or wait until you have a chance to hear the management response.
Great, thank you. And we'll start with management response. We're joined by Craig Stroud, General Manager of Visitor Venues, and Heidi Ron, the Oregon Zoo Director.
Well, good morning and thank you, Acting Council President Wong and councilors. I'm Craig Stroud, Metro's General Manager of Venues, and I'm joined today by Oregon Zoo Director Heidi Ron. First, we'd like to start by expressing our appreciation for the auditor's assessment of our readiness to fulfill the commitments of the 2024 Zoo Bond and Metro Public Benefit Programs. Next slide, please. We agree that strong governance, transparent reporting, and effective project management are foundational to delivering successful outcomes for the bond measure. All the report's recommended steps are underway or have already been completed. Further refinement and maturation of structure, processes, and staffing will help as we proceed to more complex projects. Next slide. We want the Metro Council and the public to know that the zoo is well prepared to deliver on its 2024 Zoo Bond Measure commitments. And in fact, we are already doing so. Next slide. Before going into details on that, we'd like to reflect a moment on our recent experience implementing Zoo Bond funded capital projects at the Oregon Zoo. As you know, we successfully delivered on all commitments and appropriately spent all proceeds from the 2008 Zoo Bond, with expenditures from all sources totaling approximately $154 million. That bond reimagined about 40% of the zoo campus, shown here in dark green. Next slide. Not only were these projects delivered on schedule and within budget, they were wildly successful, award-winning efforts. In 2012, the Veterinary Medical Center took first place honors for public buildings in the Daily Journal of Commerce's annual Top Projects Awards, which recognizes outstanding building and construction projects in Oregon and Southwest Washington. 4 years later, Elephant Lands was named Project of the Year while also earning the top award for public projects and runner-up honors for the People's Choice Award. In the following year, the Education Center earned 3 more top project honors, including the People's Choice Award for public projects. The Ed Center also won the AIA Portland's 2030 Architectural Award for Design Excellence aimed at reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and the Elephant Plaza building at Elephant Lands was runner-up for Sustainable Project of the Year in the Portland Business Journal's 2015 Better Bricks Award. Both Elephant Lands and the Education Center won national exhibit awards from the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. Next slide. In implementing the 2008 bond, we learned valuable lessons around planning and having upfront cost estimates to determine what is feasible. That bond also underscored the importance of planning for operational impacts, not just during construction, but looking ahead to what resources it will take to operate new facilities. Finally, the 2008 bond drove home the need to create flexibility in our plans, since operational and conservation needs are ever evolving. Thus, the current bond measure was more focused on outcomes and less on specific habitats or areas. This was called out in our 2024 campus plan. Building on recommendations from the 2008 Zoo Bond Oversight Committee's final report, we developed a plan to optimize our approach to the next phase of development and potential bond implementation. This plan was informed by extensive stakeholder input and supported by professional cost estimating of project concepts. It is important to note that this planning work was completed prior to referring the 2024 bond to voters. Projects were prioritized and selected for implementation based on regulatory and operational needs, guest feedback, and feasibility. Completing this plan before going to the voters was the zoo's first major risk mitigation and was recommended by the 2008 Zoo Bond Oversight Committee. Next slide. In May 2024, voters approved ballot measure 26-244, which authorized $380 million of bond funding for zoo capital projects. In June 2024, the City of Portland granted necessary land use approvals, and in September 24, the Metro Council approved the campus plan, establishing projects, sequencing, and cost estimates. Obtaining the necessary land use approvals within 2 months of the bond's May passage was the zoo's second major risk mitigation strategy, and it was also recommended by the 2008 Zoo Bond Oversight Committee. Having launched and matured the 2008 Zoo Bond program as the Zoo Bond program director before handing off to Heidi Ron, my scopes included land use amendments and new city land use approval, as well as completing the zoo's comprehensive capital master plan. I know and can tell you from experience that completing that campus plan and obtaining land use approval before or simultaneous with the passage of the zoo bond measure in 2024 addressed the two most challenging and risky aspects of the 2024 zoo bond implementation. Those actions are expensive, time-consuming, and for land use particularly, can result in unpredictable delays and outcomes. Next slide.
All right, good morning, counselors. I'm Heidi Rahn, the zoo director. With these important conditions in place, the zoo began assembling a project delivery team and leveraging Metro's existing capital project resources to launch implementation. It takes time to build a team to deliver at this scale. Hiring is a strategic and often linear process where more senior roles are filled first. But as of April 2026, the campus planning and development team is almost fully staffed. It is an experienced team with deep knowledge led by Beth Redmond Jones, formerly the Vice President of Exhibitions at Monterey Bay Aquarium and Vice President of Engagement and Education at the San Diego Natural History Museum. This team brings experience in design and construction management, public administration, community engagement, interpretive design, and guest experience. Before joining the zoo, they worked for general contractors, government agencies, and nonprofit organizations. They have successfully delivered major capital projects and services to their communities before, and they are prepared to do it again. Next slide. And they are not operating in isolation. As you know, Craig and I led the successful 2008 zoo bond implementation. There's our much younger selves up there. Craig launched that work and participated through 2018, and I led the work from 2013 through completion in 2021. Collectively, we have nearly 40 years of experience delivering projects for Metro. In addition, Metro's Deputy Chief Financial Officer, the Metro Attorney assigned to the zoo, and a zoo construction project manager, each of whom contributed significantly to the successful 2008 bond outcomes, continue to provide leadership and oversight. Next slide. Moving to specifics, the audit report cites the scale of what the zoo set out to accomplish, noting that bond funds were only expected to complete 5 of the 11 projects in the campus plan. We believe this scale is appropriate and should in no way be considered a negative. This slide is taken directly from the campus plan and clearly identifies 5 projects to be prioritized: plaza enhancements, coastal shores, Africa Phase 1, South Hub, and Africa Phase 2, while the other 6 projects are characterized as projects of opportunity or beyond 15 years. We undertook significant analysis and deliberation to prioritize projects that could be delivered using bond resources while maintaining a high-quality zoo experience, addressing critical operational and infrastructure needs, and balancing investments among animal habitats, sustainable infrastructure, and guest services. Next slide. The report goes into some detail about the design and construction process for the first project, Plaza Enhancements. This project is comprised of 4 sub-projects. The table here shows the budgets and timelines. Note that the budget for each sub-project includes contingency funds, with additional contingency included for the overall project. The budget for the entire Plaza Enhancements is $19 million. And here we would like to clarify something that we believe was not represented accurately to the media. The zoo's first bond project, Plaza Enhancements, is on track and within budget. There is a big difference between a cost estimate exceeding the available budget versus actual spending exceeding the budget. That has not happened. When project cost estimates come in higher than available resources, changing the project scope is standard practice and consistent with the approach used in the 2008 bond program. Next slide. In July 2024, after voters approved the bond measure, zoo staff and the architect began refining the entry plaza scope based on programming and needs. After 6 months of design, 2 new and different structure concepts were presented by the architect. There's a cardboard model, next slide. There's a cardboard model. On this slide is one of those designs. Both provided a large arrival feature that was visually impressive, but did not ultimately balance the multitude of design requirements. Specifically, the concepts and initial designs did not meet needs for sun and rain protection in specific areas of the entry plaza and would have taken away from the beautiful views of mountain goats and the surrounding park. During construction, it would have impacted the entire entry plaza, ticketing, visitor entrance, gift shop, access to the mountain goat habitat, and Great Northwest Trail. In addition, these conceptual designs were estimated to cost more than the $19 million allocated for the entire plaza enhancements project. This direction represented a significant risk to the program and to the overall bond program. Next slide. That's okay. Okay, as a result, we stepped back and identified an entry plaza scope that would fulfill our design requirements, aligned with the council-approved campus plan language, and cost substantially less than prior concepts.
Next slide.
Next slide. Cascade Terrace, currently under construction, will provide a structure that is integrated with the existing architectural elements and provide shelter from rain and sun. It will improve accessibility and serve as a welcoming gathering space with framed views of mountain goats and the surrounding park. We are also scoping updates to the entrance gate to be completed next summer. Together, these two sub-projects will complete the entry plaza investments, improving the overall arrival experience for guests while appropriately balancing cost, functionality, and long-term value. I want to emphasize that these modifications to the entry plaza project were made through established decision-making processes and reflect the zoo's commitment to responsible stewardship of public resources. The bottom line is we took smartly down a path that was too expensive and not aligned with our goals. Next slide. Wildlife Pavilion, a second sub-project within the overall plaza enhancements project, is being built concurrently. It is located near Polar Passage, and construction is progressing well. The big steel support beam should be going up next week. Next slide. Inside the pavilion, guests will be able to relax with an elephant ear, pizza, or a picnic lunch. As with Cascade Terrace, this new space will increase accessibility for visitors of all abilities while offering protection from heat and extreme weather. Both these sub-projects will meet Metro's sustainable building and sites policy, saving water and energy in zoo operations. Here at the pavilion, rainwater will funnel into adjacent planting beds and rooftop solar panels will help offset energy use. Next slide. And finally, a bit further south, we are creating Elephant Plaza, a companion space to Wildlife Pavilion. This space will replace temporary tents and provide comfortable and covered seating for guests. Next slide. At 18% per project and 10% per program, we believe our contingencies are sufficient. Next slide. I want to be clear that we are still very early in the bond implementation process. As of the end of March, less than $6 million of the $380 million total has been spent. That is less than 2% of the bond. We intentionally began with these plaza enhancements first because these sub-projects are magnitudes of order less complex than animal areas. Also, they match timing needs for a winter start and did not require a fully staffed bond team, which increases program costs, to plan and execute. Next slide. Our team is well-staffed, and plans and processes under development are in a place to support the first major animal project, a complex and much different undertaking than the plaza enhancements. Conceptual design begins this summer for Coastal Shores, featuring new habitats for sea otters, harbor seals, and Humboldt penguins. Next slide. In closing, we are confident we have the governance, oversight, and team to deliver on the 2024 zoo bond commitments and public benefit programs. We'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilors, any questions, comments? Councilor Lewis.
Sure, thank you so much. And I apologize for my tardiness. I was at the Greater Portland Inc. Meet the Mayor's breakfast. Many mayors, many words to be said. But I did have the opportunity to read the full audit, so apologies for missing your overview. In addition to reading the audit, I obviously read the full email as sent by Tracy Evans to us that included a press release. I just wanted to lift up the quote that the press release said that the audit found that the zoo was not prepared to implement the bond measure. An audit is look at a point in time, as audits generally take a lot of time, but you're looking within that window. Is the zoo prepared this year, in this exact moment?
You're asking me? Thanks for the question, Councilor Lewis. Yeah, the press release got a lot of attention. I think my response would be that there's a linguistic, semantic distinction without a difference. So when the approved campus plan includes 2 projects and the zoo only completes one of those projects but uses the full budget, I think most people would think, how are we going to fund the other part of the project? And that's really the basis for the press release. For me, it's a distraction from the ability for the public to get the outcomes that they were promised in the campus plan and when they approved $380 million. One of the reasons why I chose those words and why I've communicated extensively with zoo management, including the executive team and this oversight body, as well as the chair of the oversight committee, is because I have seen indications that the second project, which the zoo acknowledges is much more complex, which is 40% of the entire previous bond measure, so a significant investment at the heart of the zoo that has animal welfare, human safety, both in worker and employee safety, and significant impacts potentially on the zoo's revenue because you're gonna have to reroute people around the zoo. Those things in the second project, to me, look like significant risks, and I see evidence that the same pattern that happened in the first project, where quietly the scope changes without notification to oversight committee members or this body, occurs, and those things could happen again in the second. So I would say, based on what I've just heard in the response, I heard a lot about what happened in the past. I have not heard a single thing about what's going to be different in the future. And that's where I come here to you all with this audit report and why I'm confident in talking to the press about this, because it's important for the public to know that we can't repeat the same mistakes of the first project.
And I want to just lift up Director Ron said that it would have been fiscally irresponsible to have hired up an entire team over a year ago when there was no work for them to be doing. So I think this moment in time, you're using a backwards look and pushing it forward. And I'm looking at right now in this moment with what we have at hand. And I believe management has underscored that we not only have been responsible, we are meeting this moment, we are prepared, and we are delivering. So I guess management side, do you have any further reflections?
I would say you have our commitment that we are prepared. Our responses to the specifics of the audit are in the management response regarding the details of the recommendation. They are all being implemented and underway. We appreciate those recommendations for process improvements. We find value in having the audit done early on in the program to flag some of those things. We are implementing them, but we are absolutely prepared to move into this next project. Thank you.
Councilor Simpson.
Thank you, Acting President Wong. Thank you, Auditor Evans and team, for your report on management. Thank you for your response. I want to go back. I went back and found that article you talked about, which came out on the 21st, and today is the 30th. I'm all about good governance, and I'm all about good accountability, but I'm also about process. And right now, we're in the middle of a process that I feel like you have jumped the gun before allowing management to have an opportunity to respond, but also have tainted public perception about what we can deliver. And I'm telling you that straight up. Management, do you have any past rhythms of reports being reported out to the media before coming to us as a council first? Actually, considering that it was 9 days ago, and then being reported on, and then allowing management to respond after the chaos has happened. Is that part of the process?
Thank you, Councilor Simpson. I guess what I will say is I don't have knowledge of the past practices of the auditor in communicating with the media. However, the Metro Code does require that the audit report, when it's released to the public, includes the management response.
Correct.
And I don't believe that that occurred in this case.
Thank you.
Can I have a chance to respond, Councilor Simpson?
Please go ahead, Auditor Evans.
Thanks. I appreciate your concern around process. I would also hope that we could talk about the actual recommendations of the audit, but if we want to talk process, we can. So
Let's talk
I've
about
made management, the zoo director, and GM of visitor venues aware of my concerns verbally on February 12th. That was more than 8 weeks before the media got the report. I sent a copy of my concerns and met with all of you individually and shared those concerns shortly after, as well as the Oversight Committee Chair. I shared a draft of the first report, met with management, and heard their feedback. We made changes based on their feedback. I shared a second version of that report with them, got their feedback again, and I shared the response draft over 3 weeks before the media got it. At that same time, I sent that same exact report to every one of you on this committee. That means that all of the people in the executive team and the oversight body, Metro Council, had received the report over 3 weeks before the media got it. When I released the report to the media, it included a provision that they could not report on it until the audit was released to the public. All of the media outlets that contacted me and received an advance copy of the report, called an embargo copy, which is normal practice for most auditors' offices, did not report on anything until the report was published online and sent out in a press release. So the concerns about process are not valid based on the timelines.
I disagree with you because there's inconsistencies in this process because you didn't do this. I've been on this council for 3 years and I've not seen you do this in this way except for this one time.
You're absolutely correct. And the reason I did it is because my duty is to warn management, executive leadership,
but not allow
oversight bodies. Can I finish speaking? Can I finish speaking, please?
Yeah, you
can I finish speaking,
but
please?
You have to allow
can I
them to
finish speaking, please?
Go ahead.
I'm an elected official, Councilor Simpson. I don't interrupt you when you're talking.
No, you don't. Go ahead, Brian. Go ahead, Auditor Evans.
Thank
Please,
you.
go ahead.
My duty as a public official who reports to the public is to warn when things are not going to plan.
Absolutely.
And
but you didn't allow our management
I would
to
appreciate
respond.
a time to finish speaking before you interject.
Go ahead.
I'm happy to give you as much time as you want.
Go right ahead, Auditor. Go ahead. Go ahead. Filibuster away.
Councilor Simpson, let's let the auditor finish, and then you can respond.
Finish.
Councilor Wong, can I continue?
Please.
My duty as the elected representative of the public to warn when things are not going to plan. I take it very seriously, especially when—
Not this time.
Councilor Simpson, can we let him finish?
Yeah, go ahead.
I take it very seriously to warn the public and management and oversight bodies when things are not going to plan. Audit standards, in fact, require me to communicate as soon as I see an indication that things are not going right. In this case, I felt that way on February 12th, and I started my notifications. First, asking the zoo leadership team if I was missing anything. I did not receive a response back. After I did not receive a response back, I notified this body individually, both in writing via email and individually in meetings.
Got it.
I sent several emails after that saying that the things that I was seeing from our current work looked like they were repeating themselves for the second project. After that, I continued with the normal audit process, giving management sufficient time to review the written draft of our audit, meeting with them again, hearing their concerns, making changes, making the report available to them again, giving them a chance to respond again, and then a week before I published it, when the report was a public record, I shared it with the media and this body so that everybody would be aware of what to expect about what the report said when it was published with the public response. All of those things follow audit standards. I take audit standards very seriously. We have never not passed an audit review, which is our version of an external quality control review. And the reason that I took a different approach this time is because the significance of the risks are there and the lack of response from management was also present.
You done?
Would you like to follow up?
I feel like, so a couple of things. Thank you for that response. Really appreciate it. The embargo copy didn't have a response from management in it. It didn't have an opportunity for management to be able to speak on behalf of your recommendations. In the future, you are an elected official to move independently how you would like to within your office, but I would like to see more consistency. Like every audit should look the same, feel the same. It shouldn't change up because you feel like at this moment, it needs to look different. I'm sorry. I can't, the process is messed up.
Thanks for the feedback.
Yep, do better.
Councilor Rosenthal.
Thank you, Deputy Chair, Interim Chair, excuse me. I just want to clarify one thing. I was reading through, first of all, the zoo is a complex, the projects that we're engaged on are going to be complex, and there's a really significant difference in sort of, you might say, the Metro Council's ability to intervene on the plaza entrance as opposed to the animal project, because we aren't really experts in animal. We have some expertise in human interactions, perhaps, but not in terms of what animals need. And it's a complex project. And then, but clarify for me, I was looking through the recommendations, the 10 recommendations, and we do have a bunch of different goals. We have 6 goals, 5 goals, and then, public goals. My understanding is that project staff, the zoo staff and management has said that they agree and are implementing all the recommendations. So it seems to me that we have recommendations that are technically sound. I can't say I unpacked all the details and all the interactions between those recommendations, but if we have recommendations that have been accepted and are being implemented, and yet we have a very negative perception of the way the zoo has performed or is about to perform on a bond issue, it seems that there's been a matter of miscommunication or something, and we've ended up in a public situation that we could have more easily avoided. I'm not sure exactly how we could have avoided it, but perhaps the language was, I understand the concern that you have from an audit standpoint, but perhaps it did not take into account the past practices, the past successes, or the dynamic nature, particularly last year when the audit was started. During the startup phase, that it painted a much less rosy picture than perhaps was justified. So I'm just wondering why we're at such an impasse when you have recommendations that are accepted and are being implemented, and how we can then go about, shall we say, assuaging the public likes the zoo. They like the changes that were made the last time, and I'm pretty sure they're going to like the changes that are coming forward. And they may, I don't know all the details of the entranceway, but it sounds like there's a lot of amenities. So how do we, shall we say, compensate for any negative impressions and make the changes that are necessary? There's always improvements in process that can happen. There's always a little bit better reporting. There's always a little bit more attention to detail that can happen. It takes time and it takes effort and it takes learning. So how do we correct this, what means perceptual imbalance, and avoid the negativity going forward so that we don't have people being skeptical of a process that it appears to me that the zoo has fairly well in hand and has managed successfully in the past?
Thanks, Councilor Rosenthal. I think there was a lot of different questions in there. I'll try to address them, but please prompt me if I miss something. I think one of the things to consider, and I think a lot of what you've said is correct, this is not a normal process. This is not a normal interaction with an oversight body when somebody presents an audit. That is not something that I would like to repeat. That's something that I've tried for the last almost 3 months to avoid, but have not gotten a sufficient response. And so when I've exhausted all of my abilities to raise the concerns and I don't get a response, then I have to make it more and more public. And there's several off-ramps that we could have taken to have those. We didn't end up there, and for that, I hope we don't repeat. Specific to the 2008 bond, one of the reasons why I was so adamant in communicating early is because this very same process happened in the 2008 bond. We did an early implementation audit of that bond, published in 2009, and if you read the audit, it sounds very familiar to what we found here. Overly ambitious initial planning, not enough staff, quietly changing scopes so that it's not made public. And we did an audit at that time, and zoo management was very responsive. And 2 years later, we were able to do a follow-up audit and say, this is great. We're so glad that you listened to our recommendations, and the zoo is on a great course now. That is still an outcome that can happen this time. For some reason, that ability to see the process improvement that's needed to get things on the right path has resulted in attack the auditor and the auditor's process, rather than see that this is a warning sign that if there's not more attention from oversight bodies, it's not going to get on the right path. And in 2008, there was considerable controversy about the implementation of those bonds. The zoo had made allegations that they were going to build a remote elephant center. When the cost of that remote elephant center was too high, there was news media cameras in this building preventing counselors from leaving the chamber because they were so mad and the public was upset about that. That was a significant point of tension that goes overlooked in the slides that you've just seen. I will also say that a member of the public perished at the zoo during a zoo concert while construction was in place for the first bond measure in 2008. That is a significant health and safety risk.
Right.
These are serious things that we're doing. We're taking care of wild animals. We're talking public and safety. We're talking employee safety, and we're talking the zoo's ability to be financially sustainable during construction on a very constrained site. These are important risks that cannot be brushed aside with some nice, we've ended and landed the plane okay in 2008.
So inappropriate.
Super.
Thank you for making the point. It is true the zoo is a very unique situation. First of all, it's always in the public eye, and it's always visited by millions of people, and a lot of people look at various aspects and see various things. So it's always under the scrutiny, and it therefore is a higher risk level than many projects, but it's also a higher gain project. But I would like to have Heidi or Craig respond to that. And I recognize I was not on the council back, but I remember the zoo, a little bit about the zoo, about the elephant controversy. And some of these things these decisions just have to be made on the fly when you realize you just can't do what you would love to do.
I'm going to start with a response that we are committed to delivering. We're committed to delivering on the commitments, on the bond implementation plan and the campus plan, and we will do that successfully. We will implement the recommendations from the auditor. They are underway. We have confidence. We now have a team in place to do that. We have the systems and the support of leadership at the organization to make that effective. We will focus on communication with the council, and we have a very talented Zoo Bond Oversight Committee that is now reporting to you on progress for the bond and progress with the financials, and they will continuously be in touch with you as well. But I want you to have my word. We will commit to this. We are delivering. We have successfully done it before under Craig and my leadership, and we will follow through on that.
Thank you.
Councilor, there's only one thing I'd like to add to that, and that we cannot underscore enough the value of completed the campus plan with independent cost estimating and the land use approvals either before or concurrent with the passage of the measure. That was a fundamental difference between this measure and the last measure. The audit scope did not review that. That was just not in the scope of the audit. But those are the two largest risk mitigation steps we could have taken. They were recommended by the 2008 Bond Oversight Committee. We did them. We're confident that we will deliver, and we will go do it, and the proof will be in the delivery.
President Wong. I also was not here during the 2008 bond. My understanding is that the project that the auditor referenced was something that was promised by a counselor, but that was not officially part of the bond. I don't know if that can be confirmed, but I think that's, if true, I think that's an important piece.
Yeah, for the record, the Remote Elephant Center that was not developed was not in the 2008 ballot measure.
No, I understand some of these things get in the public eye as something that is promised and it's not really part of the project necessarily. People develop a certain sense of what they think should happen because everybody loves the zoo. So this is a public media situation that we can't entirely control. But we now have to do a little bit of, shall we say, damage control. And I appreciate your commitment, and I think it's, and I support you. And now we have good recommendations that you can move forward on, and we can have a little better documentation, and hopefully we're over the rough patch.
Councilor Lewis?
Sure, thank you so much. Just want to level set again that the work that we do at the zoo is led by professionals and contractors who are well versed in not only taking care of animals, but large scale projects. And obviously this report details some of our expectations from the Metro side, but there are obviously wage and hour protections, OSHA protections, et cetera. So want to take the volume down on some of the extremism we just heard. But I just want to end with Exhibit 11. So with Exhibit 11, we have two beautiful images. We have an outside plaza with a statue that I think might be a nutria, maybe a beaver. I don't know, I'm not that good. And that's leading, but it says after scope change. And then the bottom picture is a source from the auditor's office review of a campus plan of a Cascade Crest deck at 100% design development documents. I'd never seen this picture before, but it's a plaza building, it looks like. Nice place to be if it's a hot day, I guess, because you could probably have air conditioning in there. But it's titled with the zoo entry project shrank by 86% due to insufficient funds. I don't know if it shrank. I think what we did was we actually worked within our budget like the public expects us. I'm so happy we dreamed big about an indoor place where people could have air conditioning, but we are working within a budget. And yet the quote that I heard from the auditor is, voters should be concerned that the first project went over budget and is not aligned with the campus plan. So I'm confused, even that quote doesn't align with the story that's being told here with Exhibit 11. So I just want to end by saying I think there's some disagreement between the rhetoric that we're hearing and what this audit shows, because what to me this audit shows is that we are ready, we are capable, we are not over budget, we are on budget. We're using value engineering or value design, whatever you call it, and we're being fiscally responsive. So I don't know if anybody wants to respond to that, but I just want to take the tone down and say I think this is a good moment for the audit.
I agree. I would say we're fiscally prudent in redefining the scope of the first project to stay within budget and make sure we're meeting the guest needs. And that was the focus, and we're delivering on that, and that those projects will start to open in the next few months. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Gonzalez.
Thanks, Acting President Wong. Heidi, just a few questions for you. Do you have exceptional people working on this project to ensure that commitment to voters is being made?
Thank you for that question. The talent we've been able to recruit to come deliver on the zoo bond is some of the best I've seen in the industry. Because we have the commitment of the community and the funding in place, we were able to recruit very experienced folks from different sectors to come and help deliver on this. We have 9 staff on that team that are in place, will be moving forward, and will successfully implement.
Thanks, Heidi. Heidi, do you have confidence that the projects that we scope, we will do the best to meet our commitment to voters and have projects on time and on budget?
Absolutely. I commit to having those projects on time and on budget. We were very careful in our scoping process. We were very planful. We engaged the community and we engaged our internal team to figure out what the priorities and needs were. So we are committed to delivering those on time and on budget.
Thanks, Heidi. Heidi, is the zoo building on its long track record to implement risk management and mitigation tools to address any potential issues that might come up with projects?
Absolutely. We've done this before. We've delivered a 40% upgrade to the campus. We manage risk every day. We make risk management decisions all the time. And we're focused on including those in our process moving forward.
Great, thanks. And can you commit that the Oregon Zoo and the Zoo Bond implementation will continue to operate with ethics and integrity?
I absolutely commit that the Oregon Zoo will operate with ethics and integrity moving forward. That is one of my core values, and as well as my team, and we are committed to delivering on that.
Thank you, Heidi.
Okay, well, as we wrap up this section, I want to thank everyone for your work and comments. From my point of view, we're 2% in. I think, a lot of valid concerns were raised, but I do have confidence in this team and colleagues as kind of the liaison to the Zoo Oversight, Zoo Bond Implementation Oversight Committee. I'll be sure to report back, and as we progress from 2% implementation, I think the results will speak for themselves. That's my hope, but this council will be deeply engaged throughout that process, as well as the Oversight Committee. So I hope we can take recommendations to heart and move on to the implementation that the public expects, and looking forward to all our new amenities. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, so that we're going to move on to resolutions. This is item 5.1, resolution number 26-5577 for the purpose of declaring extreme heat and climate change as critical and growing threats and designated a region-wide heat season. So in our resolutions, we'll first welcome back the team from Planning, Development, and Research working on climate. Today's legislation comes to council following a recommendation from MPAC earlier this month. With us today are Malou Wilkinson, Deputy Director, Jai Daniels, Associate Transportation Planner, and Kim Ellis, Regional Transportation Planning Manager. Welcome.
Good morning, Acting President Wong, members of the Metro Council. Again, I'm Malou Wilkinson. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Deputy Director of Planning, Development, and Research. And we're really happy to be here today to bring this resolution in front of you for your consideration, which would declare extreme heat and climate change as critical and growing threats and designating a region-wide heat season. This declaration came from work on the Comprehensive Climate Action Plan and the Cooling Corridor Study that were completed last year, as well as this council and our Chief Operating Officer's commitment to doing what we can as an agency to address, to find ways that Metro can support actions to help our region manage through a changing climate. And I also just want a little bit of context as we shift from the last topic to this one. This month is Earth Month. Last week we had Earth Day, and one thing that I have been thinking about a lot over the course of the beginning of this month, when we had the astronauts go around to the other side of the moon, the images of the Earth from outer space just really hammered into me the importance of our spaceship of a planet that we are on. We are really, we rely on the delicate balance of this world and the people that are on it. And that was a reminder to me of the importance of doing what we can to help the people on our planet and to help our planet. And so that's the little bit of context that I wanted to bring into this. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kim and Jai.
Great. Thank you, Milou. Acting President, Councilor Wong, Metro Council. For the record, my name is Kim Ellis. I'm a Regional Transportation Planning Manager. And we are very excited to be here today to ask for your approval of this resolution. A couple additional things that I would like to highlight before I hand it over to Jai is that this resolution was developed with input from the public health staff from the 3 counties. We also engaged with the State Resilience Officer and Oregon Health Authority. And as Malou said, last month or earlier this month, both MTAC, the Metro Technical Advisory Committee, and the the Metro Policy Advisory Committee recommended Metro Council approval of this resolution. This is a small but really important first step to begin building more awareness around this critical issue, and really highlights the need and provides a opportunity for taking more coordinated action with our regional and local partners and state partners going forward. So I will turn it over to Jai Daniels to give you an overview of the resolution and next steps of that, and before asking for your consideration of approval.
Thank you, Kim. Next slide, please. So my name is Jai Daniels. I'm an Associate Transportation and Climate Planner here at Metro, and I'm very excited and honored to be here with you guys today. But I first want to start by underscoring the importance of this action. The 2020 wildfires and the 2021 heat dome were wake-up calls for our region. During the wildfires, over 50,000 Clackamas County residents were told to evacuate immediately, and during the unprecedented heat wave, over 100 Oregonians lost their lives, with most of them here in our region. These events made it clear that climate change is not a future threat. It is here now and affecting our region's public health, infrastructure, natural ecosystems, and quality of life. We face multiple hazards that are intensified by climate change, some of which are pictured on this slide. And today we are focusing on extreme heat because it is the deadliest weather-related disaster, killing more people on average than hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, and lightning. Yet, despite this reality, the Cooling Corridors study found that many people in our region are not aware of heat risk and do not feel as prepared for extreme heat as they do for other hazards, like ice storms. We also learned that these impacts are not felt equally. Low-income households, communities of color, young people and older adults, veterans, people living with chronic health conditions, and those living alone or outside bear the greatest burdens of extreme heat and climate change. This resolution is designed to bring more awareness to the issues of extreme heat and climate change, and to also ensure our region recognizes extreme heat for the urgent public health threat that it is. Next slide, please. I want to remind you that this proposed resolution builds on a foundation of ongoing work across our region, led by Metro, our city and county partners, and community organizations to address the worsening climate crisis. But we have heard from our partners that limited funding and capacity are putting that work at risk. The resolution before you today recognizes a need for coordinated regional action to strengthen these efforts and build a resilient region. Next slide, please. When we were here in March, we talked about turning the Cooling Corridors study into action. The study identified 47 potential actions to build regional resilience to extreme heat, and this resolution is the first step, declaring extreme heat as an issue of regional concern and designating a region-wide heat season. This resolution also responds directly to your direction from last November when you asked Metro's Chief Operating Officer to identify priority climate actions for the next 5 years. So what you have before you is a concrete first step forward on both the Cooling Corridors study and the climate priorities you've called for. Next slide, please. You might remember that we highlighted the Miami-Dade County model in March. During our work on the Cooling Corridors study, we learned from Miami-Dade's former chief heat officer about their approach to extreme heat. They faced a similar challenge to our region. Residents understood the risk of other hazards, but were not as familiar with extreme heat. In response, the county designated a heat season, May through October, and launched an annual heat season protocol that includes outreach and many grants for businesses to purchase cooling equipment. Thanks in large part to this protocol, Miami-Dade now has the lowest rates of heat-related ER visits of any county in Florida. This offers a proven model we can adapt for our region, starting with designating a region-wide heat season. Next slide, please. The youth protesters in this image understand what is at stake. They are calling out that their future is burning, but that future is already here. Climate adaptation is not a future priority. It is critical, urgent, and key part of our region's climate work. And we want to acknowledge that Metro's partners are already leading the way. The City of Portland declared a climate emergency in 2020, and Clackamas County issued wildfire evacuation orders that same year. In 2025, Washington County completed a climate action plan with climate mitigation and adaptation goals and actions. Multnomah County released a draft climate justice plan that was developed in collaboration with frontline community members. and Clark County finalized the climate change element in the county's comprehensive plan. This proposed resolution reflects our shared responsibility to act, especially for the generations who will inherit the decisions made today. Next slide. As a reminder, while developing this resolution, we learned that there is strong precedent and support for designating a region-wide heat season. The CDC recognizes May through September as the primary warm season months in the United States, and Clackamas, Multnomah, and Washington counties already observe May 1st through September 30th for heat monitoring, reporting, and standard operating procedures, which means a region-wide designation would formally recognize and align with what our partners are already doing. We've also heard strong support from the state level. The State of Oregon's Resilience Officer and Oregon Health Authority see this as an opportunity for our region to lead the way for the rest of the state. Next slide, please. On April 15th, MTAC voted to recommend that MPAC recommends that Metro Council adopts resolution number 265577. And on April 22nd, MPAC voted to recommend that Metro Council adopt the resolution. Today, we are here to ask for Metro Council to adopt this resolution, and if adopted, the resolution would declare extreme heat and climate change as critical and growing threats to the greater Portland region, recognizing that the region is already experiencing the consequences of climate change and that those impacts are expected to intensify. Second, it would designate May 1st to September 30th as the official heat season for the region to raise public awareness of extreme heat as a critical and recurring threat, with the understanding that this period may be amended in the future as climate conditions change. And third, it would support coordinated efforts to address extreme heat and other climate hazards within Metro's internal functions and among local, regional, and state partners, prioritizing investments and interventions in communities experiencing disproportionate heat exposure, limited adaptive capacity, and heightened sensitivity to climate impacts. Next slide, please. I want to recognize 5 main objectives for this proposed resolution. The first and primary objective is to raise awareness of extreme heat. The second is to emphasize the urgent need for climate adaptation efforts and build on existing work. The third is to strengthen coordination within Metro's internal operations and treat climate change as a cross-jurisdictional and region-wide issue. The fourth is to recognize that this would be a first step to begin to build region-wide resilience to extreme heat and climate change. And I also want to recognize that local and regional efforts can only do so much in the context of global climate action, but we need to do what we can to help those most at risk in our region. And last, it is to set the stage for future collaboration and partnerships among Metro and local, regional, and state partners. We will need to all work together to make meaningful progress on extreme heat and climate resilience across our region. Next slide, please. We have heard broad support for this resolution from partners across jurisdictions and sectors, including the State Resilience Officer, Oregon Health Authority, Tri-County Public Health Staff, MTAC, and MPAC. This action also supports state-level work underway. The Office of the Governor is developing the Plan for a Resilient Oregon, which is a people-centered resilient strategy to help communities across Oregon adapt and thrive in the face of increasingly severe disasters. And this plan is anticipated to be published this fall. In response to feedback and questions that we heard during our presentations in March, we updated the resolution to highlight additional examples of local heat and climate impacts and actions across the region. Next slide, please. Looking ahead to possible next steps, if the resolution is adopted here today, Metro will elevate the region-wide heat season across planning, development, and research communications channels, including a press release and Metro news story in collaboration with county partners. And Metro will continue to coordinate with county partners to build resilience and address extreme heat and climate change across the region. Next slide, please. So today, we request Metro Council take action and adopt resolution number 265577 for the purpose of declaring extreme heat and climate change as critical and growing threats and designating a region-wide heat season.
Thank you. Colleagues. Councilor Simpson.
Thank you, Acting President Wong. Thank you so much, Kim, Malou, Jai, for your presentation. We all well know the impacts of heat and the impacts it's had on our communities, particularly during that one hot year when we lost so many lives in East County. I'm really happy to see this move forward. A lot of our constituents are. Given we don't know the certainty of what our weather phenomenon is going to look like in the coming years, at least we can do our part here on the local level. So I want to thank you for all of your work, planning work, tracking down, other work that has been done in this space, connecting with all the agencies, connecting with the counties, and then ultimately how we implement it on the ground is going to be key. So thank you.
Councilor Lewis.
Sure, thank you so much. This has been really good. The body of work is excellent. Your engagement has been wonderful. Good to see you go through all the local coordinating committees and get support. This is deeply needed. It's needed as a framework for years to come, but unfortunately I think we need to get moving because we have experienced a record low snowpack year. And so I think we can expect this summer will be particularly brutal. And I just want to highlight that the fire experience in Clackamas County from past years, over the past 8 years, has been pretty significant. We've learned in my part of the region some localized response mechanisms, but in particular want to highlight that the current administration is not quick to reimburse FEMA expenses. There's still a lot of bills, both at the state and county level across the state, that haven't been paid for past fires. And the amount of money in this current biennium to handle wildfire response is equivalent to essentially one major-sized fire. So I do think that even at the state level, with the prominence of this issue and its bipartisan nature, we are still going into this summer underprepared. I say that just to get my anxiety out, because sometimes either writing it down or saying it makes it feel better. It does not mean we have better tools or more money or more resources. So I think as we are planning for this summer and implementing this framework, we should just be aware of that context, that we will be extremely limited if it is a multiple fire summer like we might expect. So you don't have to respond. I don't know how to respond, but let's get moving on this one really quick. And by really quick, I mean faster than government normally knows how to get going on a plan.
Councilor Rosenthal.
Thank you, Acting Chair. First of all, thank you for the presentation. It's good that we're moving this forward. I just remind that one of the first things we did to respond to extreme heat was to make sure that when our housing bond measures were there, that we put in air conditioning in a lot of these units, because we realized that happened at the time we had the extreme heat. So this puts us in a role to be a good convener on this, not that we're going to be the sole groups responsible for education. I think that's a good position to be in. I just have one question. Is there consistent definitions of what constitutes an extreme heat event or a persistent heat event? Because there's actually an extreme heat event, it has some impacts, and a persistent heat event has another impacts. Or is that something that we get from the now somewhat crippled NOAA?
Yes, there are. There are certain temperature thresholds at different agencies. They're typically the same. I don't want to say a number because I can't remember. It's like 90 degrees or 95 degrees potentially, but that kind of trigger different protocols to respond to extremely hot days, whether that's giving outreach, like warning people about hot weather that's approaching, or sending out information on how to kind of recognize heat illness or prepare better for extreme heat events. So there are certain thresholds that do exist at our agency and at our partners across the region.
Okay.
Councilor Rosenthal.
Thanks.
Councilor Rosenthal.
If I could just.
You unmuted.
I'm muted here.
No, your computer's unmuted.
Am I good? Okay. Thank you. It's always weird to hear my own voice. Excuse me. Just to add on to that, Jay, that was such a really great explanation. All the counties have different policies about when to activate for heat. And it really matters, not just the temperature, but the previous temperature. So for example, this resolution is perfectly timed. This Sunday is projected to be potentially over 90 degrees. That is very early in the season for the normal, if we can say what the normal used to be. And our bodies haven't acclimated to that yet. So when the counties are deciding when to, activate their emergency protocols or get ready for heat, they're looking at a number of different factors. Also the length of time, but a big thing for us is those extreme swings. It's just very difficult for our bodies to adjust.
Thank you. Councilor Gonzalez.
Thank you. I'm so glad, Malu, Jai, Kim, that you brought this forward. The work on our climate and our environment is, I think, fundamental to our values as Oregonians, and especially as the federal government and the regime in the White House, is the language I'm going to use, continues to dismantle the most important tools to protect our environment, to protect our clean air and our clean water, and to just completely toss that to the side. I think people are looking for our local governments to continue to stand up for what we value and what we prioritize. Sorry, I think we continue to have some feedback issues in the room. I think this is really important work to continue elevating. I know COO Madrigal has been passionate about the cooling corridors work. I think since my first year on the Metro Council, I've carried some kind of budget amendment or budget note on climate work and having, supporting an internal work group on this. I see us continuing to build kind of the case, the policy, and hopefully the investment as well to someday hire our, regional climate czar as well. And I think that what we are doing right now is laying the groundwork for a clear relationship with the state to express our expectations and needs. One of the things that I have been very frustrated about as a policymaker on the local level is the unfunded mandate from the state with Climate Smart and these really ambitious goals without the investment or the leadership to do that and to implement that. So we are willing partners, and hopefully we will have a change in DC where we have a Congress that is more reflective of the will of the people and invest in these renewable energy sources, invest in climate programs, invest in environmental justice in our communities that are disproportionately suffering from heat, from poison, from toxins. And, it makes me so happy that Metro is continuing to carry that work, even when it's hard, even when other people are stepping away from it. So I'm just so proud of y'all, and I'm very happy that we are doing this, and I want to continue supporting it, and looking forward to the next phases and having it flourish.
Thank you. Well, I'm excited for this one, but I'm wondering if maybe the COO or Malu, if you can help paint kind of the whole picture of stuff that we're working on in the climate realm. We mentioned climate smart solution, climate smart, and we have cooling corridors. And is there kind of a roadmap or big picture holistic view of all the different buckets that we're incorporating kind of, our heat response and climate work into, just so we have a sense of a breadth of work happening?
Do you want to start? Maybe I'll start with kind of essentially some preliminary work that we're doing, and then I'll hand it over to you to talk about planning stuff. We are obviously working in a constrained environment, so anytime we're adding new activity, we've got to look at our existing capacity first. What we've done, I've worked with DCOO Andrew Scott to create some capacity in our strategic initiatives team. Those are our excellent project managers that live in the council COO office to start help coordinating some of these pieces. The cooling corridors work that Jai and the team did was excellent, and it really laid out a very clear set of actions that we can start to take. So we and they have sort of prioritized those and helped sorted them into different categories like low-hanging fruit and things that would take a little bit longer and things that are more of a generational push. And then that capacity centrally will start to help coordinating, tracking, both internally and externally. I do anticipate that we will need to add additional capacity in the future, but in this next year, since making of some of those actions and lining them up for council as part of a work plan, I think is the next big thing for us centrally.
Thank you, Marisa. And I'll talk a little bit and then about what in planning, development, and research, some of the areas that we are continuing to move forward with. We will be updating our climate smart strategy along with the regional transportation plan over the next couple of years. We are also working, our data resource center is working, all of the information that we developed through our cooling corridor study, that information is now in a more centralized place and it's easier for our partners to access. And we're looking for ways that, we continue to convene those partners that were involved in developing that data so that it can be out there for our partners to use. We are also working with Johannes Walde and figuring out ways that we can help support climate resilient hubs around our region. And so that often will land in our equitable development work, but and it potentially could be aligned with land banking. So we're looking for ways that we can incorporate these actions that were identified in the cooling corridor study into the work that we are planned to do so that we can do it within the existing resources that we have within our department. Kim, would you add anything to that?
Yes, I would add a couple things. One, there's other program work that the department is doing that is funding climate smart type investments. So the Regional Travel Options Program, the RUFA, Regional Flexible Fund Allocation Process. So there's funding work that's happening to advance the climate strategies that have been identified in the Regional Transportation Plan and Climate Smart Strategy. And then another large piece of work that we continue to do is that my team is also responsible for supporting local transportation system plan updates and providing technical assistance and guidance. And that work is both to implement the regional transportation plan and climate smart, but also the state rules and how local governments are implementing those state rules in ways that are advancing our regional goals and policies. So we are actively doing that as well.
I guess one last thing I would add is as the future vision is brought to you all next year around this time, the implementation of that future vision and the update of our current 2040 growth concept, everything that we're hearing so far is focused on the importance of the natural environment in our region. And so I anticipate that there could be changes in that implementation that are very climate related and are kind of pointed towards from the cooling corridor study.
Sounds like we're doing a lot, which is great to hear. I think for me as like a local policymaker, it'd be great if the staff can help kind of create maybe a map, like an internal map of all the different processes, so we can better understand all the tools that this agency has at our disposal. Because I think we talk about each of these individually, but I'd like to be able to think about how we make more, like connect the dots amongst the various kind of levers. And I don't know if you already have that or if there's anyone in the agency thinking about that kind of like holistic approach of all the interventions possible. And then, I know like Parks is doing some stuff with, all the green spaces that we own. Councilor Rosenthal mentioned cooling units in affordable housing, that it seems like all the departments think about this, but like, I don't know if there's like a map of like, here is how we're making our region, a more resilient place. Because I think we're doing a lot. I just don't know that we're able to tell that story right now, where it's like housing's doing this, and planning's doing this, and transportation's doing this, and now we have this. I don't know. It's just great work overall, but what does that mean together?
Heard. Yeah, our spreadsheet probably isn't the most publicly friendly communication tool, but I like the idea actually of a map, because there are, even in the media communication that we're having today, we're listing out a lot of the other things that we're doing, and it is significant. And I agree with you. I think every department is thinking about it. Every director is thinking about, how they can contribute, with the levers that they have. And we're all part of this community too. We're all impacted by it. So I think it's very personal for people as well. So I love the idea of some kind of visual, and we'll take that back and work on it.
I'd like to connect the dots
and to see it all together
and see where different interventions can support each other. And we might be doing that already, but I'd like to see that.
I think Acting President Wong, just to add to what Marisa said, I think of it as in some ways analogous to the us trying to tell the story of Metro's role in economic development, because that encompasses our entire agency in different ways, and we're working on figuring out how to tell that story. And I appreciate the benefit it could have to be able to tell the story of what we are accomplishing from a climate perspective as well.
For economic development as well, because there are so many levers that we have talked about, with the recent resolution, but that's focused a lot on lands, and I think that this agency does so much more in economic development than just, the land management piece. But just trying to be able to paint that holistic picture.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, I'm seeing no more questions. Let's entertain a motion on resolution number 265577.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay, let's move by Councilor Lewis and we'll seconded by Councilor Simpson. Georgia, any additional discussion? No. Georgia, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Councilor Nolan?
Yes.
Councilor Gonzalez?
Aye.
Councilor Lewis?
Aye.
Councilor Simpson?
Aye.
Councilor Rosenthal?
Yes.
Acting Council President Wong?
Aye, resolution passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next resolution is number 265586 for purpose of approving the fiscal year 26-27 budget, setting property tax levies, and transmitting the approved budget to the Multnomah County Tax Supervising and Conservation Commission. So our next resolution concerns the budget. So I will now convene a meeting of the Budget Committee. The Budget Committee met on April 9th for a presentation and public hearing for the proposed fiscal year 26-27 budget and budget message. We received no testimony at that time. The Budget Committee reconvened on April 14th, 21st, and 28th to review departmental budgets. Before Council today is a resolution to approve the fiscal year 26-27 budget and transmit it to TSCC. Our COO, Marisa Madrigal, and Chief Financial Officer, Brian Kennedy, are here to discuss the action and answer questions.
Thank you, Acting Council President Wong, members of the Metro Council. My name is Brian Kennedy, Chief Financial Officer here at Metro. I use him pronouns. Acting Council President Wong gave a great rundown of the budget actions since the proposed budget was presented on April 9th by the Chief Operating Officer, Metro Auditor, and myself. This is a required step in Oregon's local budget law process. We need to approve the budget. That action does three things. It approves the budget appropriations for next fiscal year. It sets our property tax levies for our permanent rate, local option levy rate, and debt service, general obligation debt service levies, and it transmits the budget to the Tax Supervising and Conservation Commission. So again, this is a required step in the process. It's an important marker, but it's also important to recognize that there is a lot of public work yet to come on the budget. In the next 7 weeks, we will have multiple public hearings, work sessions prior to budget adoption on June 18th. So we need to get through this milestone, and we have lots of opportunities to talk together in the future about the fiscal year 26-27 budget. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
And maybe you can just go through the next steps of between now and full adoption and other points of council interaction, just so we're all on the same page.
Yes, I don't have all the dates in my head. We have several work sessions scheduled over the next several weeks, but in terms of major milestones, the next major milestone is May 28th, which is the Tax Supervising and Conservation Commission meeting. So that is a meeting convened by the TSCC. There is a public hearing at that meeting. In June, there will be an opportunity for council to discuss councilor budget notes and amendments. There will likely also be some adjustments from staff that have arisen since the budget was originally proposed. And then the final budget adoption happens on June 18th.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay. Well, thank you all very much. Let's see, we'll move on to a call for a motion on Resolution 265586.
So moved. I'll second.
Okay, it's moved by Councilor Simpson and seconded by Councilor Gonzalez. Councilors, any further discussion?
I'll add a short comment. Excellent work on the budget. Really appreciated the amount of time that we've dedicated to the budget work sessions and continuing to create more space to dive deep. I know that we do, but I'm feeling this. I appreciated the way leadership presented the budgets this year and the kind of the cadence of that. And understanding some of the trade-offs that we had to make. So excited that we're remitting this to the TSCC and look forward to hosting them in our chambers.
Thank you.
You know, I want to echo that. I thought the presentations were all universally very good. I like that we added the performance metrics this year. That was actually, very, very illuminating. And yeah, I think we had some great conversations. I know it's been a challenging budget season, but it seemed like, for me, like a lot of the council priorities and directions were really incorporated. So thank you.
Yeah. Can I actually ask one question? One of my favorite takeaways from this budget, and I see Patrick from the WPES team, was the zero-based budgeting with WPES. And I know that I think all of us on the council deeply believe in the role government needs to play in delivering essential services to people. And I just think zero-based budgeting gives us the opportunity to ask really hard questions about what are we providing? Are we doing it in the best possible way? And if we need to reorient or pivot to ensure we're delivering the highest value and maximum services that the community needs from us, that we can do that. I think more governments need to do that, let alone more metro departments. And so I'm kind of curious, Brian, Marisa, what's your general sense around, aside from the budgeting exercise that WPES went through, what are you kind of pulling away, learning lessons about that process, good and potential bad? And also, I think that I would love for us to tell the story as Metro. For this process that we underwent, especially as our other partners are evaluating deep and heavy cuts, what benefit this might be. And I know that CFOs all over the place know about this, but when I talk with other city councilors, elected officials, they're like, "Oh, that's really interesting. I've never heard of that." So I'm trying to figure out how I can also help our other partners, do big things like that.
Councilor Gonzalez, that's a great question. This is something that's a little bit of a personal interest of mine. I think when it comes to different budgeting techniques, I've been wanting to answer this question for week, so I appreciate you
Glad I
giving
asked
me the
it.
opportunity.
We're about to go to a vote and.
Budgeting techniques are a lot like diets. They all work about.
I'm locked in.
They all work about equally well, which is not all that well. The thing is that there's not any particular budget technique which is this, one weird trick to solve the hard problems facing in your budget. The organization is facing in your budget. The thing that actually works is having the commitment to make those hard choices, daylighting those hard choices, identifying the trade-offs involved in budgeting, and then working through that. And so you can do that through zero-based budgeting. You can do that through priority-based budgeting. You can do that through line item-based budgeting. There are a lot of different techniques. And I think WPES picked an approach that worked well for them. Our visitor venues through the pandemic basically were forced to do a zero-based budgeting exercise where they had to build from a place of basically zero revenue and build back. No one wants to go through a budgeting exercise in that sort of context, but you get a lot of the benefits. And in terms of our central services, planning and parks, we've done really kind of more of a priority-based budgeting exercise over the last several years in a couple different iterations. And I think that is one of the biggest lessons is you find the tools that are right for that context and apply them. And the most important part is identifying what are the outcomes you're trying to achieve rather than focused on what are the individual line items or the amount of money. So the outcomes and then the trade-offs associated with the different ways that you can try to get to those outcomes.
Yeah, great. Thanks for the answer. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that approach. In my time in public service, I too have done zero-based budgeting, priority-based budgeting. There's a lot of different techniques, but I agree with Brian that the most important thing is being really clear-eyed about what the trends are, having a good economic forecast, not being too optimistic, but also not being too pessimistic, because you can be overly pessimistic, and then the quality of your service suffers, the community suffers. So really walking up to those trade-offs, being honest and transparent about them with decision makers and also the people who are impacted by them. And I truly believe that just like there's not one weird trick, good governance is a lot of little decisions over time that lead us generally in the right direction. That's not to say that we won't make mistakes or that we won't make the wrong call, here and there, but by being careful, by being honest, by trying to have financial integrity, and also keep in mind the long-term nature of government. We aren't, a business that cycles or is going to sell to another company. We're here for the long haul, and so we have some different pressures that are applied that we need to keep in mind.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I'm certainly really interested in continuing to learn more and encourage us to keep doing that. I think we're in a moment where people want to see our governments deliver things and also have a strong sense of self-accountability. So I'm very proud of us for that. And with the WPES budget, sorry to continue to isolate that one, but there was also a unique nature of that budget because it's one of the few areas we also have rates and the kind of utility fees that we levy against users, the system, residents. And so it was really helpful to have that process as we're trying to, keep the region affordable, keep people's bills affordable, and just a really practical action that I think the entire council should be singing the praises for in our staff because it has a tangible impact. So anyway, ready to do the vote.
Brian, were there any points in the process where you thought council input, consideration, or engagement would have been more helpful earlier in the process, or do you feel like the process was where it needed to be?
That is a great question, Acting Council President Wong. I think I would say, the budget process is something that we have iterated on consistently every year that I've been at Metro. We make tweaks. The model that we have landed on now that I think has worked pretty well is having that council priority setting session in the late fall, early winter, because that gives staff an opportunity to build the budget around those highest priorities of council. And then there is a lot of technical work in building the budget, and that break from November, December to the proposed budget coming in April gives staff the time to do that. But we, I think, try to be very responsive, so we still have a lot of opportunities to make adjustments as we move into budget adoption in June. And the last thing I'd say is I think maybe the most important thing for council to remember is, subject to some technical hoops, limitations, you can change the budget anytime. It doesn't just have to happen in this window, that we can adjust and adapt throughout the year. But this is an opportunity to do a really thoughtful planning exercise, which is important. But remember that it doesn't lock us into a particular course of action for the next year.
I'm also a big fan of flexibility, and I know in last year's budget we had set aside some resources to be flexible with to meet the moment. What did we do with our flexible dollars, and what I guess how impactful were they?
Well, so at a high level with our general fund, we agree flexibility is important, especially in these times where there's a lot of disruptions and just a lot of uncertainty. Last year, when we're making decisions about that general fund, we always look at first filling our reserves. Those reserves we maintain now at a higher level than we did pre-pandemic. And then for many years, we were carrying additional funding above that as an additional cushion. Last year, rather than using all of our ongoing funding to fund ongoing programs, we used some of it to take care of some one-time only expenditures that also advanced our interests. What that did was leave a little cushion and ability to, we reserved ongoing funding for other things. In this year, in the budget that you have before you, that cushion allowed us to set aside $1.5 million in ongoing funding for you to use should you decide to finance improvements at Expo. We also had $3 million set aside should you decide to issue the loan to Prosper Portland for the food cart and beer hall up the street. So I think having that, being a little conservative, having that flexibility just gives you more choices. It not only helps you weather the dips in the economy, but take advantage of opportunities when they come along. And I felt really strongly, given all the discussions that you have had, the values that you have expressed, that this council wants opportunities to not just cut, but to invest. And so those choices of being more careful allowed us to give you that opportunity. And ultimately, it's your call if you want to complete those transactions, but you have the option.
Great. I appreciate that. I think that foresight is really paying off, so thank you. Councilor Lewis.
Sure, thank you so much. Brian, I really appreciate that you note that we redo how we do the budget through our council process every year. I think on the back end, though, y'all have a solid 6 months that looks kind of the same in the calendaring that you do. You basically start the next budget as soon as we ink this one. So really appreciate that. We're in budget season, but you're always in budget season. We are very focused when we do our budgeting on department level conversation. And I think there's so much more richness to the document itself, because then you actually see in like section E or whatever, the fund by fund way that we are spending money. And I think that there's in particular a need to pay attention to the funds because there are some of the funds attached to specific assets like the capital improvement fund, the historic cemetery, et cetera. And I just feel like it's really important that we are not getting behind on taking care of our assets, because I think that is what like one of the city of Portland's largest challenges is right now, is every single one of their assets is decrepit beyond what they have on the books. So they don't know what to do with, say, a Keller Auditorium, say a Schnitzer Performance Hall, or woe and behold, a Moda Center. And I'm not asking for us to redo our work, but I just think that it's important to look at the fact that we do have our CIP and we do have those funds really well managed. And I would hope that we can, maybe not in the next budget conversation, but in a separate policy level discussion, make sure we're not falling behind even when we're having a hard year like this.
That's a great point, Councilor Lewis. I think it's maybe not always completely visible to the council, but from all of those funds roll up to specific departments or functions. And so in that case, the department director and their finance manager, they own that whole financial portfolio. And as they're building their budget, they are trying to ensure that we are keeping up as much as possible on our investments in capital assets. And they also have great partners in our capital asset management department, which manages our agency-wide asset management strategy through things like facility condition assessments and making sure that we're setting aside enough for investments in those assets. So I think that is an area we definitely pay a lot of attention to. The CIP is part of it. Those individual fund decisions are part of it. And it really is a kind of an all-team approach between the finance manager for that area, the department director, and then our team in CAM.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, and we'll move on to the roll call vote.
Yes. Counselor Nolan?
Yes.
Counselor Gonzalez?
Aye.
Counselor Lewis? Aye. Counselor Simpson?
Aye.
Counselor Rosenthal?
Aye.
Acting Council President Wong?
Aye. Resolution passes. Thank you and great work. I will now adjourn the meeting of the Budget Committee. Let's see, we have one ordinance for today. It's a second reading on ordinance number 261541 for the purpose of annexing to the Metro District approximately 3 acres in Washington County at Northwest 185th Avenue and Northwest Springville Road. Let's see, we have one annexation. We held a first reading and public hearing on ordinance number 26-1541 on April 16th. We received no public testimony. Glenn Hamburg, Senior Regional Planner, is back to answer questions as needed. Colleagues, any questions? No? Okay. Is there a motion on 26-1541?
I will move to approve said resolution.
Second.
Okay. It's moved by Councilor Gonzalez in exuberant fashion and seconded by Councilor Rosenthal. Is there any additional discussion? Nope. Okay. Georgia, will you please call the roll?
Counselor Gonzalez?
Aye.
Counselor Lewis? Aye. Counselor Simpson?
Aye.
Counselor Rosenthal?
Aye.
Counselor Nolan?
Yes.
Acting Council President Wong?
Aye. Thank you, Glenn. The ordinance passes.
Yeah, thank you all.
Okay, we'll move on to COO Communications.
Thank you, President Wong. I was reflecting on our earlier conversation about the zoo bond and wanted to check in with you as a council to see if it would be helpful to, as part of our COO updates and our regular committee updates, have regular updates from the Zoo Bond Oversight Committee, the Parks and Nature Bond Oversight Committee, and the Affordable Housing Bond Oversight Committee. If it would be helpful to bring those staff in during the COO update to provide regular updates on those committee meetings.
Colleagues' thoughts?
Feels good. Thumbs up? Great.
Yeah, that's good.
We'll make that happen. Thank you.
It wouldn't hurt.
That's all I had. Yeah, and I like this. I think the structure has been going well, and I think it. They are your, doing work on your behalf. So having an update from staff would be good.
That makes sense. Thank you. Okay, Councilor Communications. Councilor Lewis.
Colleagues, I want to share back that I was able to attend the opening and ribbon cutting of Divert up in Longview yesterday. This new facility will be working to turn food scraps from across the greater region, Oregon and Washington, into energy. Well, first into a slurry that then becomes energy. And it is an impressive facility and was great to be there alongside lots of local electeds from Longview and state electeds from across the state of Washington, joined with City of Portland, Washington County, and Clackamas County staff were there as well. I think that's my only report.
Great, Councilor Rosenthal.
Thank you, Chair. Just was able to attend yesterday morning just a site walk on a property in the city of Tualatin that we helped them purchase. It's interesting because it is the last remaining free-flowing, sort of say, unaltered stretch of Hedges Creek into the Tualatin River. It's an interesting prospect. It's also the only area where the Tualatin River Trail really comes close to downtown, so it's going to help us extend the Riverside Trail, the Tualatin River Trail, and also it's going to aid in the city of Tualatin in doing their economic development plan, and it's going to have impacts on our transportation plan because they're going to have to deal with some interesting critical intersections. So it was a pretty interesting thing, and the city is they have a lot to play with, you might say. They have a lot of opportunities, and they think they have a lot of investment, and so it's going to be good for that city. Thank you. They're very happy, incidentally, that we helped them with the purchase of that property.
Excellent.
Councilor Gonzalez.
Thanks. Yeah, I didn't provide an update on this at our Tuesday meeting, but I wanted to make sure I did since, Councilor Simpson and I were in DC last week advocating for strong regional economic development in partnership with public policy and business leaders from Portland, Oregon, Portland area, as well as Seattle, Washington, and Vancouver, British Columbia, thinking about Cascadia strategy, Cascadia region, what makes us stronger as a region in relation to global competitiveness. So it was really, really valuable to have some opportunity to do that, to meet with our legislators and to talk to them about the work that Metro is doing. I know the work that Councilor Simpson as lead on the work group and did as well is very, very meaningful and valuable to the region. Also, colleagues, I just want to highlight as well that tomorrow, May 1st, is International May Day for workers' rights and immigrant justice. I really encourage you to see how you can participate in a local rally, listen to leaders that are being to community members that are being impacted by immigration policies. I personally will be down in Salem tomorrow, rallying with folks at the Capitol, just to continue to advocate for an Oregon that is truly welcoming and belonging to all families. So I encourage y'all. I know that it's a value that you hold deeply in your hearts as well. I just wanted to remind you that that's tomorrow. Thank you.
Colleagues, Councilor.
Oh, go ahead. I have another one, though.
Go ahead.
Okay. Our COO reminded me that I should share out that the Metroids convened for trivia at Duffy's last night. And the Metroids were pretty solid, and we bet it all at the end. It was a complicated geography question we did not know the answer to, but we still came in second place.
Oh.
So congratulations to my fellow Metroids for knowing a lot of things, but not everything.
We are recruiting someone who knows sports trivia, so.
Colleagues, tomorrow marks the beginning of Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Starting in 1991, the month of May was designated to honor the contributions and influence of Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and other Pacific Islander to the history, culture, and achievements of our country. I know there'll be celebrations and events throughout our region, and I encourage folks to attend these events where everyone can spend some time reflecting on the various contributions this community has made to the region. So I'll give some more personal remarks at the May 26th council meeting as I wrap up my term serving as acting council president. But until then, have a great month.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Councilor Gonzalez, did you have?
Oh, no, sorry, that's
Okay. All right, well, seeing no further.
leftover hand.
Seeing no further discussion, the council meeting is adjourned. Our next regular meeting is scheduled for May 5th at 10 a.m.